You're listening to the Platform Launchers podcast. I'm John Stange, and it is great to be with you again this week. I'm really excited about our topic this week. We're going to be talking about carving up your content. I'm going to give you 10 simple ways to repurpose what you've written and what you've recorded. This, by the way, is one of my favorite subjects to talk about. But before we even dive into that, before we even get into today's topic, I thought just for fun, it would be fun to introduce you to one of the members of our members club. So each week I record our podcast here in front of a live audience. So I've got the group right here in front of me. So many faithful people that jump on the call every week, and we get to spend Tuesday evenings together, building our platforms together. And I asked the group, I said, who wants to introduce their platform to our listening audience today? And the group voluntold MJ. So MJ everyone said, we got to tell MJ or tell MJ's story or have MJ introduce herself to the group. So MJ James, who goes by the Burned Out Business Mom, is with us. So MJ, before I get into tonight's teaching topic, give everybody a snapshot of the platform that you've been building.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for the shout out, everyone. Appreciate the support. The Burned Out Business Mom is a platform that is developed to help mothers specifically, and anybody really who is dealing with burnout. I give free resources on how to deal with your burnout, how to recover from burnout, how to not even get into burnout if you'd wish to avoid it. Right now on the website, I have a couple free resources. I have a checklist of 15 ways to avoid burnout when you work from home. And I also have a free burnout assessment. So if you feel that you are in need of any of those things, or you'd like some help with that, swing on over to theburnedOutBusinessMom.com and check out the resources.
Love it. So theburnedOutBusinessMom.com, be sure to check it out and stop by there. And MJ, you've recently started to make available coaching sessions for people that are looking to really sit down and talk about this. Is that something that we can announce to the listening audience that you have available, if you have some slots available for that?
Absolutely. I do have slots available for one-on-one coaching.
All right. Definitely check it out. BurnedOutBusinessMom.com. MJ James, one of the biggest cheerleaders here in Platform Launchers. You know what we call her? I'm going to tell the listening audience this, MJ. MJ is the one we call the icebreaker, because when we have our members only Q&A, MJ often does the favor for us of breaking the ice and asking the first question. But she's just done wonderful things over the past year and really discovered how people want to use the content that she's producing, and she's just knocking it out of the park. So MJ, we're so glad you're part of the group. And those of you listening, be sure to check out the BurnedOutBusinessMom.com. Fantastic resource. Well, as I mentioned just a moment ago, today we're talking about this idea of carving up your content. And I'm about to give you 10 simple ways that you can repurpose what you've written and recorded. And I'll start off here by just telling you a little something about what happened to me this morning. So this morning I was invited to be a guest presenter for an online entrepreneurial summit, something that's going to be airing a few months from now, but they're recording the sessions right now during these months. And so they recorded my session earlier today, and partway through the interview, the host said something to me that I've heard many times. And she said, basically, after hearing about all my daily responsibilities and the forms of content that I'm producing, she asked, how do you get all of this done? Because the list seemed really long to her. She said, how do you get all of this done? And I had a very simple answer for her, and it's what I'm going to suggest to you guys as well today. And I just simply said, I repurpose everything. I repurpose everything. So how do you get things done? I repurpose everything. And when I say everything, I pretty much mean everything. I try to give every piece of content that I'm creating a second life. It feels like poor stewardship to me to spend all this time and all this effort creating content that I'm trying to create to make it useful for other people, but then allowing it to just linger in a file somewhere, forgotten and unused. I don't want that to happen. So I try to give every piece of content that I'm creating a second life. I want it to see the light of day many times in many different ways. And I think, and I'm going to give you some insight into what I do here for platform launchers, because I actually think my weekly workflow for platform launchers, that it provides a great illustration of how this works. I love leading an online membership community, and frequently people tell me they would like to do the same. But how enjoyable would it seem if I told you that my responsibilities leading this membership community include the following: hosting a live training session, writing fresh blog content, recording a podcast, creating a 60-minute video for the members only training vault, creating a 15-minute video for YouTube, writing a chapter for my next book, and creating marketing materials to make new people aware that my membership community even exists. Would that seem easy to you, or do you think that would sound like too much work to be able to do that every single week consistently without missing weeks in between? Well, while I don't consider what I'm doing easy, I definitely consider it well within the range of being accomplished in a reasonable amount of time, especially when you carve up existing content so that it can be used in and repurposed in multiple different ways. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to give you an in-depth look at my workflow, and it basically breaks out into 10 segments or 10 different ways that I'm repurposing written content and audio content and video content into multiple different ways of delivering it. So it starts off like this. First off, first thing you do is you write the blog post. So the first thing I do each week for platform launchers is I write a blog post. And I have a list of topics that I want to write about for the next 3 months. So I have just a full list ready to go of things that I'm going to be writing about and thinking about and preparing to talk about. But I have a list of topics ready to go. And when I finish that list, what I'll end up doing in addition to that is I'll use feedback from our members club and from my personal experiences to help me decide what to write about next. But basically, I write a weekly blog post that's roughly 2 pages long, single spaced. And because I'm a fast writer and because the topics I'm writing about are usually things that I feel very passionate about, it doesn't take me very long to write the weekly post, usually less than an hour. So 2 pages long, single spaced, less than an hour, I write one blog post per week for platform launchers. Second thing I do is this: I teach the members club. So each week I host live training for our members club. That training is roughly 60 to 90 minutes. We used to say it was 60 minutes, but now we get on early and we stay late. So it ends up being closer to 90 minutes now. But that training is roughly 60 to 90 minutes, depending on the week. And we start off our training calls by discussing our wins and celebrating the progress that we're making on our individual platforms. And then the call transitions into about 15 minutes of teaching. And my notes for the teaching portion of the call are taken from where? They're taken from the blog post that I initially wrote. So step 1, write the blog post. Step 2, teach the members club. Step 3, create videos. So our weekly training calls with the members club are recorded. And after the calls end, I immediately begin editing the videos. And I create at least 2 videos each week. The first video I create is the 60-minute video with exclusive content and members only Q&A that gets uploaded into the video vault that's only accessible to members. So the longer video, it's only for members. It's not something we make publicly available. The second video is a 15 to 20-minute clip from the training portion of the call that I edit and I upload to YouTube. Fourth thing I do is this. After that, I should say this, the weekly calls that we do with our group, they're recorded via Zoom. And I'm recording the audio and video, obviously, when I do that. And after I download the raw video, I also download a separate audio file that Zoom makes available, and I use that for our weekly podcast. And what I do is I delete the members only content that's at the beginning, and I delete the members only Q&A that's at the end, and I polish up the teaching portion of the call and just make sure I'm happy with the sound. And then I add a pre-recorded intro and a pre-recorded outro to that file. And then I upload it to my podcast host as this week's podcast episode. So that's number 4. Number 5 is I write the newsletter. So when it's time to write the newsletter, what I do is I go over to the blog post and I copy the first 3 paragraphs of the most recent blog post and I paste them into an email. And under the 3rd paragraph, I add a link that says read more, and I put it in all caps. And it's a link that if someone opens their email and they click on that link, they'll be taken to the blog post on my website, which is exactly where you're trying to steer traffic. You're trying to bring people over to your website. So I use my weekly newsletter to bring people over to the website. And I take the first 3 paragraphs of the blog and then add the read more link at the bottom of it. All right. Number 6 in this workflow is this. So once that's complete, I basically have several social media options I could utilize. So the goal is now to post on social media. And some weeks I utilize all of these things. And, so one of the things I could do is on my social media. So whether this is Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or some other place, I can share a link to the blog post on my social accounts, or I can simply share a quote from that week's content. Sometimes I do that. I could also share a link to the YouTube video that I've created and uploaded, or I can share a short clip from that video to the social platforms that show video. And there's multiple that show video. And by the way, live on the call right now, and maybe you heard her interview a couple of weeks ago, we have Melissa Hughes on the call with us right now, and she's just a great TikTok expert. I'd encourage you to check out her content as well at melissaleehughes.com, Lee spelled L-E-A. But there are various platforms that you could upload short form video content, TikTok being one of them. You could also do it on Instagram. You could also do it on YouTube. You could also do it on Facebook. And so posting on social media, whether it be written content or video content, lots of options I have there once the content is created. The 7th thing that I do with the content that I'm creating each week is I use it for marketing. So I like to have additional marketing efforts happening at the same time. And a lot of times what I do is I'll take the content that I've created and I'll use it for marketing in 2 ways. So sometimes I'll take a video from our training vault and I'll use it as a lead magnet on the sales page of my website. So if you're not familiar with the concept of a lead magnet, basically a lead magnet is where you give away some form of digital content. You give it away for free to visitors who visit your site, and you do that in exchange for them joining your email list. And so I'll put video content out as a lead magnet. If somebody joins my email list, they can watch the video for free. And over time, if I feel like that piece of content isn't performing as well as it once did, then I realize it's time to switch it out. I'll put a new piece of video content up there and make it available. But another thing I like to do, and I actually just updated this on the sales page for platform launchers, if you want to check it out, I like to take short clips of my videos and share those on my sales page, even without creating a lead magnet from them. And here's my reason for doing that. I think it's kind of interesting to ask people to join a monthly membership or something like that, or a membership community, if they don't really know you very well. And video is a very helpful tool to help people get to know you. So I added a video from one of our recent calls to our sales page so that people can see that, see what our training calls are like, see what my personality is like, find out if they even like my personality and want to work with me. And it helps build rapport with site visitors. And it's a very useful tool for marketing. So I'm giving them a chance to get to know me a little bit better as they hear me speak or watch me teach or learn about how I help people with their platforms, with platform development. So I use some of that content as basically marketing material on my sales page. All right, number 8, if you're consistently creating video content, it's not difficult to repackage that content into a course. So that's the 8th thing I do with that content. I try to turn it into a course. And what I do is on occasion, I'll take several related training videos that I've made for our members club, and I'll group them together and I'll sell them as a standalone course. And for a mini course, I usually charge maybe just something like $50. For larger courses, I maybe charge like $229 or a little bit more than that. Sometimes I'll offer a discount on that, but I'm able to take content that I've already recorded as part of our members club and repackage that into content that can be bundled together and create either mini courses or larger courses with content that already exists. All right, number nine on this list, from time to time, I like to use the content that I've produced for our members to also host webinars. And in fact, I just arranged to host a webinar coming up in just a few weeks. Less than 2 hours ago, I just arranged to host this webinar. And I use the content that I've produced inside our membership to host webinars. And I find these very enjoyable to do because they allow me to introduce the concepts that I'm teaching to a new audience. And there isn't much preparation on my part that's required ahead of time because I'm using content that I've already produced. I've already developed it. I've already outlined it for our membership community. And all I'm doing is now teaching it to a new audience when I get the opportunity to do that. So hosting a webinar with content you've already prepared is a great way to reuse or repurpose content. And number 10 on my list is this: write a book. Now, most people would say that they would like to write a book before they die. And there's a few people here on this call that do a lot with books. I know Greg Gerber from Forward from 50 just wrote a book and has that available on his website. Jennifer Harshman from Harshman Services helps people write books. You can find out more about her at harshmanservices.com. There's a variety of people that that are really working on book content that are part of our membership. And most people would say that they'd like to write a book before they die, but few people ever accomplish that goal. One of my favorite ways to produce book material is to take my most popular blog content, restructure it a little, update the formatting if needed, and present it in book form. And when you think about a standard book, when you think about most books that you read, many books are between 10 to 20 chapters long, give or take. Some are around, 15 chapters long, right around that range. And if you're writing a new blog post each week for a year, you now have 52 potential chapters that can be made from the content in your blog post. So what if you took your top blog posts from each year and you turn them into short ebooks or short paperbacks? If you made a consistent habit of doing that, you could produce a new book every single year. And if you're prolific, you could actually produce several new books every year from your blog content. And in fact, that's something that I've done many, many times. I have quite a few books that were initially written as blog content that I then took that content and I edited it a little bit and formatted it a little bit and produced book chapters from content that I already had written. So now think about all this. Can you see what I'm doing or how I'm doing all the things that I do during the course of a week? I actually know that it sounds like a lot. When I make the list and when I say what I'm doing, it sounds like a lot to most people, but the secret to my efficiency is my knack for taking content and finding many different ways to share it. I carve it up, I serve it in different and creative ways. And what I'm doing is basically I'm producing reading material for readers, I'm producing audio episodes for listeners, and I'm producing video content for watchers. And essentially, I'm taking one thing. So remember, it all started with that blog post. I'm taking one thing and I'm finding ways to share it, as many different ways to share it as I can. Just trying to think, who would want it in what format? Does someone want this in audio? Does someone want this in video? Does someone want this in book form? Does someone want this in blog form? Will they prefer it to come to their email directly? Is this something I could repackage as a course? On and on and on. And doing so gives my content a second life instead of letting it waste away in forgotten file folders. Now, I'll tell you something else. If you're listening to this via the podcast, or you're watching this via one of the video options, maybe you're a member watching our training inside the member vault, or maybe you're watching a clip of this on YouTube or somewhere else, I'll encourage you to do something. Head over to platformlaunchers.com because I have a blog post there related to this very subject. And you'll be able to see my list there. You'll be able to see my list of 10. You'll be able to take some notes on it. It's over there for you, so be sure to check it out. And while you're there, if you would be interested in taking a 2-week test drive of our members club, you can see a sign up to do that as well. And we'd encourage you to do that. You'll be able to check out our video vault and see all the different training things that we have in there. Quite a few things at this point. You'll be able to join us for some of our live calls as we record the podcast live and have our members only Q&A. You'll be able to join us live and meet some of the cool people that I get to hang out with every week here in our membership, and we build platforms together. And there's some really exciting things taking place. And if you're really interested in doing something like this, we would love to encourage you to be part of what we're doing. Again, just head over to platformlaunchers.com and you could take the 2-week test drive. You could also find in the blog my notes for this particular session, and maybe it'll help you as you're trying to build some of your platform out and some of the content that you're trying to share, and really allow you to deliver your content in a variety of ways to an eager audience who needs the content that you're producing. But that's it for us today. Thanks again for listening, and we look forward to catching you again next week.